Welcome to Behind the Screens, Conversations with Background Screening Pros. I'm Les Rosen, your host, and I'm excited to have you here. On this podcast, we chat with the people who know the background screening world inside and out. Executives, industry experts, legal pros, and more. We dive into their personal stories and insights to give you a real look at what's happening behind the scenes. Whether you work in the screening industry or are just curious, Behind the Screens bring you the real, unfiltered conversations from the people who make it all happen. Stick around for stories you won't hear anywhere else. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of Behind the Screens, Conversations with Background Screening Pros. And today we have quite the pro. We have a gentleman that, despite his youthful appearance, actually goes back to the days where the background screening industry ran on, believe it or not, what's the word? Oh yeah, fax machines. Some of you might know what those are. And Mr. Bob Capwell is a gentleman that is responsible for a lot of things that we all take for granted today. But in the early years, he was in the forefront of a number of things. And maybe he'll also talk about all his great work in turning PBSA into an international organization. He was a leader in that as well. So, Mr. Bob Capwell, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Les. I appreciate you having me on today. Thank you.
So let's start. First of all, what it is you do now, and what do you find most interesting about what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. I am actually the owner and principal consultant of Capwell Consulting Group. I started the firm back in 2022. We do consulting for CRAs. We can do consulting for employers regarding the background screening process, due diligence, HR compliance, and compliance around background screening. I also hold a certification in risk management. I have my CRMP, so I do risk management consulting as well. And also we do litigation support and expert witness work related to lawsuits relating to negligent hiring, background screening, workplace violence, things like that. And we also do litigation support and expert witness work in the medical device and quality litigation industry as well. Yeah, I find what I'm doing now is very fascinating. It's very different depending on who I'm working with, or of course, if I'm working on a court case, very fascinating. So I'm able to really leverage 34 years of my industry experience into a lot of different things. So.
And you're also the pro from Dover when it comes to ISO.
Yeah,
do you still do that? Or I know you've done a ton of that.
Yeah, I could do ISO consulting. So ISO 9001, so it's a quality service standard. I've developed, implemented, and run different ISO 9001 standards. ISO 27001, that's an information security standard. I've implemented that as well in a couple different firms. I also understand ISO 1345. It's a medical device manufacturing standard. So yeah, I'm very familiar with the ISO world.
You are the Renaissance man of the screening industry. You have that breadth of knowledge. So here's what I'm curious about. I mean, I know we've talked a lot in the past, but tell us about the path that got you to where you are now, the journey from when you started, and I'll give it away, in your college dorm room to being where you are now.
Yeah. So yeah, I graduated from Penn State University back in 1988.
Penn State, is that a school? Is that a real school?
Yeah, it was a great school.
Okay, I just wanted to check. All right, okay.
Beloved Lions. I graduated in 1988. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration Management. I grew up the son of a dry cleaner. So I was supposed to actually go into our family dry cleaning business. We had several stores. I was going to go in. My dad was going to retire. I was going to do that. Work there during the summers, pressing shirts and pants and doing all the different things in dry cleaning, and decided, man, that's probably not for me. I think I was more fascinated with the legal and the investigative, process. I actually applied to the FBI and also the CIA. Had the wrong degree. They were looking for pre-law degrees, computer science folks with expertise in, multiple languages, things like that. So never got in there. Decided to put on a suit one day, and I went into Snelling and Snelling, went into a staffing firm, and I applied for a job. It was actually for Equifax. I applied for the job of their regional sales manager. Got the job, was regional sales for the Mid-Atlantic region. I also ran a small verifications department. I was a supervisor, and they also put me into their fast track management program as well.
And this, without meaning to engage in age discrimination, this goes back a little ways.
It does, yeah, back in the late 80s, actually.
Okay.
And only worked there for 14 months. Equifax decided to consolidate some offices. They were going to close our regional office. They wanted to keep me on as a local sales rep. I would report to another office away from me. And I figured I was working in Erie, PA, a smaller town, and I thought we were going to lose some business. I thought it was a great opportunity for me to go in and start a background screening firm. So yes, to your point, actually, I started a background check company out of my fraternity house in college.
So you started a background check company out of your fraternity house in
1991.
1991. Oh boy. I mean, that's at the beginning of everything. I mean, that's rail in the beginning. And that was with fax machines.
Yeah. So we had thermal faxes. We had a small computer.
Not just fax machines, thermal faxes.
Thermal fax, yeah.
All right.
We had to hire somebody to just sit and consolidate all the pages that came off the fax printer. And of course, if you ran out of paper, you had to start over again. The transmission would just start over. So yeah, it was very laborious. Tough process. I only had our business in my fraternity house just for, a few weeks. It was under 90 days. I think one of the credit bureaus came to do a site verification, and that was about it. Had a legitimate office after that, moved my company to Pittsburgh in 1994, grew it to a multi-million-dollar business by 2007. Actually sold the company in 2007 to another background screening firm, EBI, where I became the chief knowledge officer. And then we sold that company in 2021 to Sterling. I stayed there for the transition. Had a short stint at Hound Labs, a biotech company out of Silicon Valley. I was the VP of risk and compliance there. So drug testing. So really staying in the same industry. But before I started Hound, I started my consulting firm.
Right.
Where I am now. So yeah, I've had a lot of experience in, verifications and compliance and quality and leadership. And you know what it's like. You got a small company and you're the, chief cook, bottle washer.
Right. Yeah.
So I've learned everything about the industry.
Wow. Well, that's quite an adventure. Well, given all that, I mean, obviously you stayed in the background screening industry in different roles and different iterations. What do you like most about your career in background screening and so forth?
It's absolutely fascinating how it's evolved, since the 80s when I started. It's amazing what's happened with, technology, the use of the internet, a lot of different resources. It's really changed. I love helping employers, helping to manage risk. Love playing that role and helping employers, helping CRAs, really helping employers find the best talent. I always loved doing that. I had an opportunity to work with major global coffee retailers, major online retailers, technology firms, universities. I had a great career in doing a lot of different things with a lot of different companies, nonprofits, universities, healthcare. A lot of fun.
Yeah, wide variety. So, and in the middle of all that, right, growing your firm and creating, new technologies and new ways of doing things, you were involved heavily in PBSA at the time, NAPBS. And in fact, if memory serves, you are a past chair of PBSA. So tell us about your adventures in PBSA. How did it start, and some of the things you've done, and particularly, I've always been really interested in your role, and along with others, in helping turn PBSA into an international organization.
Yeah. So to your point, you've obviously been a leader, a co-chair of the board of directors. I was a co-chair as well. I think it was in 2005 and 6. At that point, our focus was really lobbying and putting together funding for, to have a professional lobbying firm or a law firm to support us. And at DC, we knew that we needed to, meet with legislators, meet with government agencies. We needed to educate them. They really needed to understand our industry. So I love that role. I enjoyed being in the early leadership role there. I joined the ethics and accreditation committee, so being involved in helping to roll out the accreditation process. And then globalization. After I left the board, I started our global efforts. There was a lot of firms coming to our U.S. conferences, a lot of folks from Canada, a lot of folks from India, and we really saw the need for globalization. So Barry Nixon and myself, we actually co-chaired the global task force, and now we're a global association. So I'm proud of my efforts and leadership in PBSA, and I hope I've done a great job and left a great legacy.
Well, undoubtedly. I remember at one time you were invited to a screening conference in London. You were co-chair. You got to go to London and got wined and dined and met all the folks in England who were doing this.
Yeah, I was the chair and also the guest speaker for a pre-employment vetting conference. So that's the kind of the early days of organizing the folks in the UK and in Europe, and really understanding kind of what we've done here in the US, and really helping them understand that we need to get in front of things. We need to work with government agencies. We need to educate them, or else, we're just going to be not put out of business, but it's going to be tough for us to grow. It's going to be very difficult. So getting ahead of things and working with the government is very important. And they understood that early on.
Oh, that's great. And now you've been to, I think, every PBS conference, or unless you missed one or two, but I mean, you find them valuable, I assume, and you're there and listening to all the changes.
Yes, it's invaluable. It really is. The education, the webinars, the resources, the certification programs, accreditation program. I rolled out our accreditation program for the one background screening firm that I worked at. I mean, it's invaluable what it does for your firm, for quality, the way to separate yourselves from other screening firms. It's invaluable.
What was that like to head the accreditation program for the screening firm that you helped roll out?
It's a lot of work. Initially, for probably the first 6 months, it's writing a lot of policy, gathering up policies and documentation we already had, reviewing them. How do we fill gaps? Looking at records, conducting audits. It was a lot of work. A lot of writing, a lot of work, and a lot of training, really getting people on board, understanding the importance of the accreditation process and what we're trying to do, really getting everybody on board.
So what was the benefit to the firm you were with in doing that, in going through that process of policies and training and making sure everyone knew the policy and so forth?
Yeah, it was huge. I think we were number 8 to be accredited. Mm-hmm. We were really early on.
Yeah. Yeah, I likened it to, in mountain climate, they talk about you do a class 1 route. So it's a long walk in thin air. It's not that there's any one thing that's particularly laborious or anything you didn't know about. It's just doing it and documenting it and looking at all the client contracts.
Right.
And so on and so forth, looking under every stone. So, that's great. So let's move away from PBSA and background screening. Let's talk about Bob Capwell. I'm sure our listeners want to know a little bit more about you outside of screening. Let's talk about, wherever you want to, hobbies, interests outside of work, things you like to do for fun. Too bad you don't get to live right near the beach in Florida, walking distance, 5 minutes. That would be nice if you did. Oh, no, you do. That's right. I forgot. All right.
Certainly enjoy walking on the beach, riding my bike on the beach. My wife is doing shell design and artwork and jewelry and things like that. So I certainly help her, gather shells and material and things like that. And that's fun. I enjoy doing that. We're blessed here in St. Augustine, where we've got a great state park, so we can, ride bikes, go kayaking. I have a surfboard. I paddle. I'm not going to say I'm a surfer. I'm more of a paddler. I certainly love going out, just paddling out off the coast and just kind of enjoying time. I have golf clubs. I'm not a golfer, but I do have golf clubs.
All right, you have a surfboard, you're not a surfer. You have golf clubs, you're not a golfer. I don't think I'll go on anymore. But
I love the outdoors. I love college sports. I'm a Penn State grad, so I go to college football games. Love outdoors. My wife and I still have a place in Pennsylvania that's out in the woods, so I love hiking there and playing on tractors and playing in the mud, doing all those things. So yeah, it's a little redneck fun here and there.
So, I still remember the story. Were we in Nashville at a PBSA conference, and you're getting sworn in as chair, and Amy got stuck in the elevator? Or
Yeah.
All right. I can't remember for how long, or if there was a happy ending. There must have been, because you've seen her since.
Well, it was funny. I was supposed to go on and give a keynote speech and I didn't see her there. And it's funny, I was in the lobby and all of a sudden there's people pounding on the door of the elevator. It was storming there. I don't know if the power went out or what happened, but I was able to kind of pry open the doors. You could see the elevator. My wife was in there and a few other folks. It was stuck between floors. Yeah, it was a little bit of chaos, but yeah, we finally got her out of the elevator. Started a few minutes late, but everybody was safe.
So you were her shining knight. You rescued her from being trapped in the elevator.
Exactly. I'll probably still get points for that.
Well, amongst all those fun things you do, surprise us or regale us with something that people may not know about you that you wouldn't mind sharing. The
Sure.
secret life of Bob Capwell.
Sure. So, I am a creature of education. I'm always thinking of things that are new, things that are interesting to me. I'm actually an inventor. I'm working on a piece of equipment that it's an implement that hooks onto the back of your tractor. And I've been working on that actually with some Penn State college students. So it's something that, I've always wanted to create something, have something tangible. You work in the background screening industry. We're working with data all the time. And, this is something tangible. So yeah, I'm very excited about it. We're getting very close to getting to market.
I actually saw an early rendition of it in Pittsburgh. It's very cool. It's something that completely outside their own background screening. It's a physical thing, an object that can go behind tractors and and things that have multiple uses. And that's coming along then, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Very
great.
happy with progress.
Well, I can't wait for the official introduction. And we're going to switch a little bit from just sort of personal stuff to a little bit about the background screening industry. So sometimes it's interesting to ask people, what are some of the top issues you see in the background screening industry, or some of the challenges or that the industry will face in the future? I mean, from your perspective, having started in the day of not just faxes, but thermal faxes, what's in your crystal ball?
The continued issue with the redaction of identifiers in court records is always a challenge. We've had challenge in, Michigan, California. We're always out there trying to educate court clerks and court administrators on the importance. And, it's a balance between privacy and having the right information so we can provide accurate information. That's, I think, a leading issue. Certainly the FCR-related lawsuits against, consumer reporting agencies and also employers, is just growing. Identifiers or identity is a big issue. I think it's like 50% of the FCRA litigation that's going on right now. Pressures from the CFPB around reasonable procedures to ensure maximum possible accuracy. 607 of the FCRA, reasonable procedure, is always an issue. The patchwork of legislation around clean slate laws. We've got 12 states now that have clean slate laws. That there could be some issues of the adoption and timing of when records would be sealed or not available. So I think that's going to add another nuance for compliance for background screeners. Analysis of common names is now an issue, being sure that you've got a policy and process for that. Analyzing consumer disputes is a problem. Now the litigators, the plaintiffs' attorneys are looking at, what about metrics around that? What have you done? If you've reviewed them on a regular basis, root cause, continued improvement is always a problem there. AI is a challenge, being sure that whatever AI or whatever technology we put in place doesn't have a bias or doesn't offer disproportionate impact against minorities. Those are probably the biggest issues and challenges that we've had. A lot of them we've had for a long time. A lot of them are new.
Yeah. And of course, everyone talks about AI. So, I'll just ask the general question. What do you think about how technologies of the future will impact the future of the screening industry?
AI is great if it's harnessed, if it's audited, if we know exactly what we're getting. Like, for example, I actually pulled up Google AI and I asked because I forgot, when was the first PBSA conference? And if you look at Google AI, it comes up and says 1975.
All right.
Well, we can't believe everything that AI tells
Right.
us. We have to harness it. We have to audit it. We have to, second guess it.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, given your perspective and involvement in the screening industry, hopefully we have a lot of people listening that are perhaps starting their career or mid-career or figuring out where their career should go. What's your advice for not only people that are entering the profession, but people who are in the profession who want to grow with it or or go new places. What's your overall advice to people who might say, Bob, should I get into background screening? And if I'm in it, what can I do to make myself more valuable, to grow, to get new roles, whatever it is my goals are? What would you tell them?
So if you're getting into the background screening industry, do your research, understand what you're getting into. You have to join PBSA. I don't know how a new background screening firm can come into our market and not join PBSA and be successful. The education is invaluable. Get a background screening consultant, understand the industry, understand from the people that have been there for a long time, get some consulting, get some help. If you have a niche market or something that you're familiar with, that you can look at end users or employers in that market, that's always a help. Get accredited. Even if you're not ready to be accredited, get a copy of the standard, go through it, understand the bits and pieces of it, understand the documentation process you got to put together.
Yeah.
Those are probably the biggest things. And get certified. FCRI core certification, advanced certification, very, very important. Use the tools, use the resources that are out there that PBSA provides us.
But that's great advice, but I can't imagine anyone being in an industry. I mean, if you're a professional, and professional is in the name, that you wouldn't want to take the first FCRA course and the advanced course and read material and attend conferences and know as much about your chosen profession as you possibly can. I mean, it seems to me like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
What about serving on committees and that sort of thing? I know you've had your share of committee assignments and so forth.
Yeah, we have so many more tools and resources out there today than what we had when you and I started, especially starting the industry.
So we're drawing close to our time here, and I'll give people a chance to get back to work, having had a chance to know a little bit more about Robert Capwell. Any thoughts about the screening industry you want to share before we sign off, or any last-minute nuggets of knowledge or information you want to share with our vast listening audience?
I'm truly blessed to be part of the background screening industry, and it's been a great career for me. It's been wonderful part of my life, and certainly been satisfying and lucrative. I enjoyed a great life, and I've met some great people like yourself and many others. So I've got friends from the industry that I'll have for life, and I enjoy that and cherish it, and glad that I've had some great impact on the industry and some of my colleagues.
Well, Mr. Capwell, I certainly appreciate you joining us today in our new podcast. You'll be able to hear Mr. Capwell on your favorite podcast channel, but you'll be able to see him on the affiliated YouTube channel. And I appreciate you being a guest here on our program, Behind the Screens, conversation with the background screening pros. And from everything that we all know, Bob, the title fits you to a T, a background screening pro. So I really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks.
And ladies and gentlemen, let me, with that, sign off, and looking forward to seeing you at the next episode. Just check the website, or on LinkedIn, we'll announce new episodes every week, and looking forward to our next person. And again, let me thank Robert Capwell. Bob, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks, Les. Appreciate the invite.
All right, that was yet another wonderful conversation with a background screening pro. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. And hey, if you got a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps get the word out. For more info, or to catch up on past episodes, or to make suggestions, or to suggest possible future guests, head over to our website. Once again, this is your host, Les Rosen, and it's been a pleasure to bring you another episode. See you on the next episode. Thanks.